I probably would say that I have three disruptive changes that I would want to share, and they're kind of, they're all complementary because they all affect my life in some way, shape, or form. I think the first is search itself. I talk about a lot in my books and in my keynotes about this idea of the marketing world and the communications world the business world was a world of one to many, and still in many cases it is. It's still about, the spray and pray, as they say, the command and control, the Super Bowl commercial. But it's segued into, and it's evolved into one-to-one, the whole relationship marketing, but then what I call one from one, which is actually the fact that customers and prospects and employees could actually initiate the transaction or the communication or the relationship or the point of contact. Fundamentally, that is so much more disruptive and profoundly disruptive than anything, even social media itself, what I call the many-to-many. Because communities always existed. The only difference, of course, is the megaphone or the loudspeaker or the amplification. But that's the first one. The second one I would say is, and certainly at Evolution, we live this. The virtual, in fact, my previous company, Crayon, was completely virtual. In fact, our office was in Second Life, in the virtual world of Second Life. The maligned world of Second Life. That was so maligned that, we ended up doing very real things and achieving amazing results from it because I think we really committed to it. But the virtual model that today really Starbucks, the Admirals Club, the worst possible seat on a flight to San Francisco because you've got Wi-Fi, and then all these shared workspaces, the Grinds and the WeWorks and the alleys of the world, Bryant Park. Really, the world is our workplace. And in fact, if we are inspired to produce better and work better in an environment, like Bryant Park, then why wouldn't we? So I'm very, very passionate and fixated on improving the works, in a way the workplace and the workspace has devolved to a point of almost no return. The cubicles, remember that movie Office Space? We're living that. It's hell. It's purgatory in the sense that people have become ants in this maze of cubicles. It just is not the way it should be, with massive commutes and unpleasant commutes and delays. And so I love virtual workplaces and dynamic workplaces and spaces because I think it can just bring out the best in us and also create these incredible new contacts. The third is it's definitely related to evolution and this idea of connecting startups with brands. I joke with people, and if you get to know me, like kind of how I operate. But, I often will say, most people write a book to shill a company. I created a company to shill a book, in a sense, which is I believe in the content and in the ideas. And this idea of big companies and brands finding almost this revival or renaissance or resurrection in the form of being able to partner with entrepreneurs and early stage startups, I find is tremendously exciting and offers very limited downside and limitless upside. But again, it comes back to that first quote I said, Walt Disney, if you can dream it, you can do it. There really is one thing, it's change itself. On the one hand, as I grow older, I see myself becoming kind of crabbier in a sense, and crustier and more grizzled. I see myself kind of balking at change and saying, wait a second, you have become that which you once despised. So the ability to check myself and realize that I am normal in the sense, I'm just like you, I'm just like everyone else. I love my habits and my routines and my way of life and my Starbucks, my little security blanket, and nobody likes to change. But also checking myself and saying, you must embrace, you must disrupt, you must, force yourself out of that comfort zone. And as I write about in my new book, that the example with Intel, Andy Grove famously fired himself And then of course he had his CFO rehire him, but he came in without baggage, without politics, without all the kind of pretense and incumbency that slows us down. And that really just led us into the fact that I continue to struggle with the fact that change always takes longer than we think. It always does. And in some cases, it appears like it happens overnight, but it doesn't. And it comes back to the fact that we hate to change. So what happens really, it is like the just noticeable difference, which is something that I learned about in Principles of Marketing all the way back in 1990, I guess, or 91, which is the fact that, every day you put on a tenth of a pound or and then one day somebody looks at you and goes, my God, you've put on weight, or vice versa. Every day you lose a tenth of a pound, it's unnoticeable until one day someone goes, my God, you've lost so much weight. Well, the same applies in marketing, where the candy and the chocolate makers, they keep on shaving away a little bit more, until somebody looks at it and goes, what the hell happened? Which is why they come out with a now 25% more size. They're basically just getting back to normal. So the just noticeable difference is the way, even though sometimes we look at changes incredibly disruptive, it is the product of those little kind of increments. And those little increments become death by 1,000 paper cuts as well. So that's this kind of weird world we live in. It's a series of little small things, a million small pieces, but at the same time with global and incredibly powerful results when that tipping point happens. And it's just becoming comfortable. For me, I'm totally comfortable in that chaos. One thing I have learned throughout my career is any form of extreme is bad. Which is a weird thing to say, because I think disruptors and innovators and entrepreneurs are extreme in of themselves. But I don't think that's accurate. I mean, for example, I believe that I am a product that 50% of me is extreme left brain and 50% of me is extreme right brain. But put them together, I'm somewhere in the middle, where there is balance and equilibrium, where I would say, and I do say, we need to take the best of the old and combine it with the best of the new. And we need to throw out the worst of the old and throw out the worst of the new. Because there's a lot of this new stuff that's absolute, crap, in a sense. And so I think, again, what it all comes down to is finding your place and your space in this vortex or in this chaos of change, and realizing that, the answer isn't to move quicker or slower. It is to move extremely quickly and extremely slowly and figure out the balance and how that comes together.